You open your bedroom door every day without thinking about it. A space that is yours. A bed that belongs to you. A corner where no one else is supposed to enter unless invited. It feels so normal that it almost feels universal, like something humans have always had. If you strip everything away from modern life, a bedroom still feels like one of the most basic human needs. But that assumption quietly breaks the moment you place it into the world of ancient humans. Ancient humans didn't have bedrooms because for most of human history, people did not live in fixed houses divided into private rooms. They lived in small, mobile groups inside shared shelters where space had to be temporary, flexible, and communal. At first, that sounds almost impossible to imagine. If they slept, where did they sleep? If they lived together, didn't they need privacy? But the moment you ask that, another question appears underneath it. What even creates a bedroom in the first place? A bedroom only exists when three things exist together: a permanent structure, enough space to divide that structure into sections, and a social life that allows personal territory inside it. Without those conditions, the idea of a bedroom simply cannot form, no matter how much someone might want it. So the real question shifts. Why didn't ancient humans build that kind of space? The answer begins with something very simple but easy to overlook: movement. For the vast majority of human existence, people did not stay in one place long enough to build permanent rooms. Early hunter-gatherer groups moved across landscapes following food, water, and seasonal changes. Archaeology from different regions shows repeated patterns of short-term camps rather than long-lasting settlements. These sites often contain stone tools and hearth remains, but very little evidence of permanent architecture. Not because people lacked intelligence or skill, but because permanence would have been a burden. When your survival depends on movement, every object you own has to justify the effort of carrying it. Walls don't move, rooms don't travel. A structure divided into fixed bedrooms only makes sense when you expect to return to the same place again and again. So instead of rooms, ancient humans built something far more adaptable: shelters that could be assembled quickly, used collectively, and left behind without regret. Think of simple huts made from wood, branches, hides, or woven materials. In many environments, these materials leave almost no trace after thousands of years, which is exactly why archaeology often finds fire pits and stone tools, but not detailed floor plans of houses with bedrooms. But that raises another question. If everyone is sleeping in the same shelter, how did that actually work at night? Evidence from both archaeology and ethnography suggests a surprisingly simple pattern. Sleep was communal. People gathered around a central hearth, the fire acting as both heat source and social anchor. Sleeping arrangements were not separated into private rooms, but organized around proximity to warmth and safety. In colder climates, bodies themselves became part of insulation. In warmer regions, people often slept outdoors or under light coverings. This wasn't seen as unusual. It was efficient. Safety in small groups mattered more than personal separation. And this leads to another question that feels modern in its origin. What about privacy? The idea of privacy as a physical space inside a home is deeply tied to later human societies. In small mobile bands, typically consisting of a few dozen individuals, everyone already knew everyone else intimately. Daily life was shared: food gathering, tool making, childcare, movement. In that kind of environment, the boundary between public and private space is not drawn with walls, but with behavior and familiarity. Archaeological interpretation, supported by studies of modern hunter-gatherer societies, such as some groups in the Kalahari or East Africa, shows that sleeping areas are flexible and often rearranged. There is no fixed "your room" because there is no permanent architecture to support it. Space is negotiated moment by moment rather than assigned permanently. But even that explanation isn't the full story. Because there is also the environment itself. Many early human shelters were built from materials that do not survive well over time. Wood, leaves, animal hides, reeds. These decay quickly. So even when people created structured living spaces, they often disappeared without leaving a clear archaeological footprint. This creates an illusion that ancient humans lived in almost no structure at all, when in reality, they likely lived in very practical, lightweight shelters designed for their surroundings. Still, none of these shelters show consistent evidence of interior partitions. No permanent dividing walls. No fixed rooms that suggest this is where one person sleeps and this is where another sleeps. The idea simply doesn't appear in the record until much later. So when does it appear? The turning point comes with agriculture. Once humans began farming and staying in one place for long periods, everything about space changed. Settlements became permanent. Houses became heavier, built from mud brick, stone, and later more durable materials. And with permanence came accumulation, more possessions, more defined roles inside households, and eventually more structured living spaces. When a home no longer has to be carried or rebuilt constantly, it can be divided. And once it can be divided, rooms begin to emerge. Bedrooms are not just sleeping areas. They are expressions of stability, ownership, and time spent in one place. In that sense, bedrooms are not a basic human feature. They are a relatively late invention in the long timeline of human life. Seen this way, ancient humans weren't missing something we take for granted today. They were living within a completely different logic of space. One where shelter was temporary, sleep was shared, and survival depended more on mobility and cooperation than on personal separation. And this brings the idea full circle, because the modern bedroom feels so personal, so private, so essential, that it's easy to assume it must be ancient. But when you trace it back through archaeology and human behavior, it becomes clear that the bedroom is not something humans always had. It is something humans slowly built as their relationship with land, time, and settlement changed. So the next time you close your bedroom door behind you, it isn't just closing a room. It's closing a very recent chapter in human history, one that only became possible when we stopped moving constantly and started staying long enough in one place to imagine that sleep itself could have walls around it.